It's time for the Mic'd Up Podcast with your host.
I'm Mike Constantine, your Tampa Realtor, and this show is for local entrepreneurs to showcase their businesses and discuss the successes and setbacks of running a thriving business.
You're listening to
The Mic'd Up Podcast.
Welcome back to the Mic'd Up Podcast. Today's guest, Shannon Whitwer.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm great. How the hell are you?
Doing really good, thanks.
So Shannon is first ever political candidate to come on the podcast. I'm actually really excited to sit and have a conversation with you. We met through a mutual friend, Theo, over from Christo's, and then you came over to my restaurant and had a great conversation. And I'm really interested in the journey that you're on, because this is starting to spread throughout the country, where people that never came from politics are starting to get interested in positions at, county level, state level, congressional level, so on and so forth. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
So let's tell the audience a little bit about Shannon. Where'd you come from? What'd you do? What made you want to get into the county commissioner race?
Where did I come from? I am originally from New Jersey, if you can believe it. I have been in Florida for almost 18 years. I originally started out in Pinellas County, and I've been in Pasco for the last 7 years, and moved from Pinellas because traffic, and it's just so congested down there when I moved up here.
So you're the one that brought all the traffic from Pinellas up to Pasco.
No, I refuse that.
No, it sounds like it was you, because now you can't go down 54. I used to be able to get to I-75 in 20 minutes from Trinity, and it's 45, sometimes 50 minutes because of the outlet mall and everything else that's being developed. So we'll talk about some of that stuff later, but clearly your fault. So you came here from New Jersey.
Yes, a long time ago.
Quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's basically southern New York, so.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. And so you decided to get into, after 18 years of being here, you've decided to try and make a difference by going into the local county commissioner. I believe it's District 4.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. What made you want to do that?
Well, the neighborhood that I live in is rural. And over a year ago, we got a letter in our mailbox stating that a developer was going to come in and put four-story apartment buildings in our rural neighborhood, and then 10,000 square feet in front of that. We went to this community meeting, county commissioner was there and the assistant, and it was, we were just being sold on the idea. And I thought that the job of a county commissioner was to help the people. It didn't seem that way at all. So we went forward trying to fight it. A bunch of us, we started Keep It Rural, fighting against the apartments and what they were doing, and studying and doing lots of research as to why it didn't belong there. I know that we need apartments, but not in a rural neighborhood. We don't. And according to the county's comprehensive plan, had it been followed, it wouldn't be there. The airport community across the way should have stopped it to begin with, because those ladies and gentlemen over there, when they come in for a landing, they turn right over the area where they're putting the apartments. Mm-hmm. So they rubber stamped it through, and here I am. Because I was on the other side, I could see it was wrong. It was so wrong on so many levels, and I could go on, and I won't. But I thought, my gosh, we're not being represented. When we went up in front of these people and gave them facts and not our opinions, it didn't matter, not one bit. We spent so many hours, trying to fight this and getting petitions and we even got T-shirts that said "Keep It Rural." We got a lawyer. It didn't make a difference, and that's when I decided, you know what, I could do a better job, and the people need to be represented.
It's amazing how passionate that you are about trying to save the community that you live in. There's another development that I'm not even a part of that bothered me to my core, because Tunnel to Towers was trying to build a community for disabled vets, police widows, EMS. You know what Tunnel to Towers does.
We do, yeah.
And there's a community that's out in West Pasco that was doing the exact same thing. They said, we don't want new houses to go where the cows are. Meanwhile, every developer seems to get a nice stamp and a pass. And keep in mind, I'm in real estate, and so it's not in my best interest to not build more houses.
Right.
But I'd rather see less houses being built
Yes.
because we don't have the infrastructure or the traffic patterns. Highway 54 is not wide enough, and I don't want it to turn into the LA Parkway. And that's what's happening right now. But they failed to plan for future expansion, and then they do everything after the fact.
Right.
And it's always somebody's brother's, uncle's, cousin's third nephew that gets the contract for it, and it just sits there for years while they're collecting paychecks, and it's frustrating. You know, and we're small town USA. I mean, Pasco's a wonderful place to live. You know, I generally respect a lot of the people that I've met that are in county government, but at some point the people just get forgotten and they say we're going to push what we want to do anyway. But the Tunnel to Towers one really bothered me because they had to fight quite a bit, and it was only a handful of homeowners that had an issue with it. And
what's ironic is while that was going on, we were fighting our fight. And I remember the whole group of us were like, we would take it. You could come over here. But I know that they had the land donated.
Right.
But that is totally something that would have been appropriate over there. You know, homes, fewer homes on, 1 acre was fine. But you're talking, 800 to 1,000 people. And we have one little road going through our whole community.
I always try to think back because I'm kind of an old soul. I couldn't imagine these conversations happening in the 40s, 50s, and 60s where they said, you know something, we have wounded warriors that have lost their legs or given their lives, and their spouses and kids need a place to call home. None of the neighbors probably would have picked up hammers and said,
Yes.
great, we'll start building. But in today's world, everybody's an activist. Everybody wants the social media attention for sympathy. You know, it's like the world championship of who gets the most sympathy every week. And look at me, oh my God, help me. No, pick up your bootstraps, get something done. And that's exactly what you're doing. So I wanted to have you in here. I'm so grateful that you came in here because I think that the people need to hear your story and why you want to do what you want to do. And so, the reason why you're running, it affected your neighborhood, but what are some of the topics that you're running on that could help Pasco County?
Well, infrastructure, that's first and foremost. When you have firefighters begging for money so that they can service the county properly, that's a huge problem. When you have people dying because these first responders cannot get to them fast enough, that's a problem. When you don't have enough police officers to service, a certain area, every area in the whole county, this is a huge problem with the traffic getting worse and worse. The quality of life right now for the citizens is going to continue to go down if we don't actually take a good look at what's going on and come up with solutions. You cannot just keep doing the same thing and thinking that the problems that you're making are just going to disappear. They're not going to disappear. They're going to multiply.
And what's amazing about Pasco County is when they want to do good things, and by they, I mean county government, they can do it like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I watched downtown Main Street. I would never go to downtown Main Street 5 years ago unless I had a gun on me or something that, other than that, because there was just meth addicts everywhere, ODing constantly. Police lights were all over the place. Those properties were getting devalued to an unbelievable level, and now it's just taken off.
I know, it's booming.
They did the beautification project. A lot of that was political money that had gone in there, but they did such an amazing job. And it's starting to look like downtown Dunedin, which is one of the greatest cities in all of
I love
Florida.
Dunedin.
Yeah, Dunedin's an amazing place. And downtown Main Street is starting to get to that point. There's businesses that are thriving. There's new businesses that are just dying on the vine to get in there. The houses all around there are starting to get renovated. They're getting beautified.
Yes.
You're getting a lot more office space going in there. And you can see and it wasn't a lot of money that they put in there. I mean, in the grand scheme of the budget of Pasco County, it wasn't a ton of money that they went ahead and put in there, but the money that they did use was used effectively, and they did it very quick. I want to say that it changed over within 2 years to something that was completely dilapidated and covered in crime to you can walk up and down Main Street now with your family, and I don't mean to go back in the 1920s. Let's go get an ice cream cone, kids, and a little bit of popcorn, see? But you can do that and feel safe, and it's like a fun place to go. You can go to Sims Park without worrying about, bad things happening out there.
Right.
I know there was a local group that did Christmas trees all around there this year. I donated to that. We put up a Christmas tree, my office, and a couple agents did as well. And it was great because you could walk around at night and be like, oh, that was our Christmas tree. And then we donated those Christmas trees to underprivileged families that didn't have them. But you could never do that before. I mean, never. So with what you're talking about as far as infrastructure goes, the money's there. There's still leftover.
Yes.
There's still leftover COVID funds that are out there that if they really wanted to redo roads, they could redo roads like that without batting an eye. If stormwater wanted to go and clear out all of the drains so that way certain neighborhoods don't flood, they could do that in a heartbeat.
Yes. Well, there's $70 million out there since 2018. Where are the firehouses? They were promised 10 firehouses and a training facility. There hasn't been one put up in the last 10 years.
Why do you think that is?
That's a great question, Mike. Red tape. I would love to answer that. And I did sit with the county administrator, but I didn't get a real answer out of him either. So I'd love to know where the money is. You got me?
Yeah, and it always kind of seems like that. And it's frustrating because being in real estate, I know a lot of developers, I know a lot of heads of large building corporations. And when I don't do general real estate, I have bought and flipped houses. I've, have rentals, but I also had to go to the county permit office a lot. And I got to know, so the more that I started getting to know people in there, I found it was easier to get, paperwork done. But at the same time, Pasco is a very small town. And I've also been inside the government building to where I go with someone that's very well known that may have a street named after them or a couple streets after them. And they just walk in and it's here you go and you're done. And it's unbelievable because when you look at the Pasco County flow chart, the Pasco County flow chart leads with who is in charge of Pasco County. And at the very top of it, the citizens.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then right below that, it's every governmental board of elections, property appraiser, tax collector, sheriff, judicial, so on and so forth. But it says that the citizens are in charge. And that is 1000% not true. And I can tell you that, recently, because inside of my neighborhood, we have a former county commissioner that banned the residents of our neighborhood from going to a stormwater and a swift mud meeting. And the head of, I shouldn't say the head of stormwater, but an engineer from stormwater, he goes, these are public hearings. The public is allowed to go. But because a former commissioner decided to petition that, they said, we're going to give you guys a meeting after the fact. Because he just doesn't want us to hear what they had to say. And it's really, it bothered a lot of the residents where the residents got up in arms a little bit. They're emailing, calling stormwater and calling all these different departments. But it's amazing because once you were in Pasco government, it's like you're there for life kind of thing. And you can still push those strings to push the citizens aside so you can run your own little secret agenda. And at some point, the people are going to have enough. And I think we're starting to get that way as a country right now.
Oh, yes.
Where the people are just having enough. But from a local level, I love the fact that people like you are getting up and just tying up your bootstraps and saying, I'm going to make a difference in whatever way that I can. I'm sure you've run into some challenges. So what kind of challenges have you, because you registered a year ago, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I threw my hat in last July. So I am a registered Republican. I am a conservative. I'm a Christian first. Let me just say that. So let's just say there's been lots of roadblocks put up because let's just say that some people want a certain person in that seat. But as far as I know, the people want something different. That's a challenge that's come up. But you know what? The people are fighting back. They don't want the same old Mike. They're tired of it. They're tired of politics. And I am not in this for politics' sake whatsoever. I was living my life. I was so happy. And then when this happened, I was like, you know what? It's time to get uncomfortable. The life that I was loving and living, it wasn't enough. And I think more people need to get uncomfortable and get involved, or your county is going to change before your very eyes. You're seeing it already. So that's why I decided, okay, I have to do something. I'm not a politician. So here I am resonating with the people, all people. And that's another part of my platform, is that all voices matter. It's not just Republicans. It's not just Democrats. It's not just independents. It's everyone in Pasco County. That's who I want to represent, because we're all affected by what's going on and decisions that are being made on our behalf. It's not just one party. It's everyone, Mike, and they've had enough.
And I think what a lot of people don't realize, and I've had a lot of friends locally that I know that are in the political arena, some which ran and were ahead by double-digit figures. And then at the last minute, you'll get one of these career politicians locally that just plants a story inside of a local newspaper or a widely distributed, Tampa Bay area newspaper, and just smears them for no reason whatsoever. And it's all false. But it's usually done like a week before the election, and then that will sway just enough votes to get their candidate pushed through. But what gets me is, and you can have people that have no ties to Pasco County, that are from Miami-Dade, that are from Jacksonville, wherever, donate millions of dollars and say, let's just get this guy in there or this girl in there. And it's not, you're not doing it for the people. You're basically at the mercy of the wealthy.
Right.
And that's what has happened nationally, which, whether you loved him or hated him, when Donald Trump got in there, and any billionaire is going to be brash. Any billionaire is going to have a-hole tendencies because they're not used to being told no, but he couldn't be bought. And because he couldn't be bought, everybody hated him. But at the local level, they all can be bought. And it's unfortunate.
Not me. Me.
I'm talking about the career politicians.
Just making,
I'm talking about the career politicians. And so, and it's frustrating, because I've unfortunately been exposed to it. I've seen it a little bit. When I was in the military, I was around everyone from, the president at the time to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And it was very eye-opening for a young kid. I was 19 and 20 years old at the time when I was exposed to that. We had Saudi princes come in and foreign dignitaries and, heads of NATO and things like that. And looking around like, what am I doing in this room? I have no business being here whatsoever. But you get to see some of the things and exposed to some of them that, I'd rather forget. And I think it's probably only gotten worse since then.
Oh, you're right. And it's no different on a county level. I've seen, I've heard, and it literally makes me sick to my stomach. Why don't we make this change? Everyone wake up. Because if we don't change those seats and the people that are in them, you're just going to continue to get more of the same. I don't know how else to, tell that to people. I'm a straight shooter. You have to get up, you have to vote, you have to get involved. I know right now, I think a lot of people are sick of politics, and I don't blame them. It's left a bad taste in your mouth. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But maybe now it's different because of what we've all gone through. And maybe now is the time to go, okay, I don't want to hear it, but maybe now it's time to put up or shut up. That's where we're at.
And I think it really scares the living daylights out of the powers that be when someone like you comes in. And I saw your supporters on the corner of 54 and Little this weekend, and I was honking at them and doing all that stuff. But it's refreshing to have an outside perspective, somebody that's not just simply towing the line, that's going to come in and do what I say and say what I do and all that good stuff. But it's frustrating because I recently heard that there is a last-minute magical write-in candidate that just showed up out of nowhere who is actually supporting another candidate and donated to that candidate's campaign. And now they suddenly are in the mix for whatever reason.
Isn't that something?
And meanwhile, you had to file over a year ago just to get your name on the ballot and get in the race, right?
Yes, I did file a year ago and just qualified, last week. So, and it cost a lot of money. And this write-in, I do not believe, don't quote me on this, but I don't believe they didn't have to pay anything or send in petitions.
But what I find most odd is that they donated to someone they're running against campaign.
Yes.
So that just stinks on a number of different levels as far as trying to pull votes away from other candidates that may be giving them a run for their money. And that might be a way of trying to change the outcome.
You got it. What are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm a registered independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So guess what, Mike? You can't vote. August 23rd, you can't vote.
For my county commission.
That's right. You will not be able to vote. I'm sorry.
Why is that?
Because of the write-in candidate. It cuts off anyone who isn't a Republican. Now only Republicans will be voting for the candidates.
Is that because there's no Democrats in the county that are running?
Yes.
So because there's only Republicans, you have to be a registered Republican to be able to have the ability to vote.
Yes, sir.
That's the most un-American, non-freedom thing I think I've ever heard, which surprises me because Pasco is a very pro, freedom. There's more flags that fly in this county than anywhere else. And so
isn't the county commissioner, this whole race and people voting, we're voting as Americans, right? I mean, I'm not voting, I won't be making ordinances on things that people, let's say, who are running for governor or president. No. This has nothing to do with any party. It has to do with the people. That's how I see it. And going around the county, that's how the people see it too.
I mean, last time I checked, there's no stamp that goes on my property taxes or my sales tax that says, here's taxes coming in from a Democrat or an independent. There's when I go buy something at wherever, those tax dollars are going straight to Pasco County.
Exactly.
When I get my county tax assessment or my vehicle registration every year, mine does not say Toyota Tacoma 2020 Democrat or independent or Republican on it. That's amazing that they can shut that down. And I wonder, is that a state law that they can do that? Like if there's no other opposing party that they can?
It's legal. It's legal. What happened?
It's disgusting if it's legal, because that technically is segregation at the highest level.
You said it, not
me. And
me.
it's segregation not based on race. It's based on your beliefs. And they don't know, as an independent, I have very, very conservative values when it comes to fiscal responsibility, and I may have some other beliefs that align more with, the Democratic side or something like that.
You know how I see it, Mike? That's an attack on the people. That's an attack. Whoever did this, that is an attack to stop their voices from being heard. You can't say it any other way. You can't mince it.
No, you don't have to mince it. That's exactly what it is. And I'm surprised that I won't be able to vote, unless I go and change my party affiliation at the last minute, or if someone goes and changes their party affiliation just to be able to vote.
Do you think that that's wrong for you to do that? To change your party?
Morally, I think it's disgusting. But I know plenty of politicians here locally, not on a personal level. Some that are on the news all the time just because they love a good camera whenever it comes around them, that have flopped from Democrat to Republican according to the way that the wind blows, because if there's no opposing candidate, they have name recognition, they have millions of dollars behind them. Guess what? Now they're a congressman. Now they're a senator. Now they're, whatever position that they're going for. And that's what's wrong with politics. And politics are a very fixed animal. You have to kind of kiss the ring of the ones that came before you, or they will just destroy you. And I've seen it firsthand. And it's sickening, because I think most of them are generally really good people. And I've met some phenomenal county commissioners, phenomenal people. And, I don't know what they have to deal with on the back end. But at the same time, as Americans, you shouldn't have to worry about this. I mean, this country is becoming less and less free. And if you travel around this globe, which I've been fortunate to go to several continents, and you want to see what censorship is really like,
right,
and you want to see people that really don't have rights, go to some countries. Try going in certain places in Europe. Try going down to Central and South America.
We're so blessed. We are so blessed.
We're blessed, but there's so many people that just walk around saying, "Oh, it's the most horrible country on earth," and this and that. You know what? And most of them are these mega athletes that support China. And China is actively trying to kill an entire population of the Uyghurs, but America's the racist country. It's amazing to me, the hypocrisy. And then there's no backlash because the media is controlled by all except for maybe 2 or 3 networks, and I try to watch them all just so I can get a well-rounded voice. But I'm starting to see that pendulum swing a little bit. You know, you get like Bill Maher starting to, switch his tune a little bit. And, Joe Rogan has definitely gone, a different route because they've seen it. They've left California. They've left some of these places. And when I talk to people that are moving here from, it doesn't matter wherever, most of them came from the upper Northeast, which is, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Do you know, I also find that when I meet people who just moved here, I figured when I talked to them, they would probably like the development. No, they do not. They bought their home and now they're like, but what's happening? And I just let them know. I said, it's out of control development. And they were literally, someone said, I'm leaving. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just got here. Mm-hmm. They don't like it. The people that are originally from here, the ones that chose to be here, and now the new ones coming in, they don't want what they had before. And that seems to be what's happening in the county. We're urbanizing it. So we're trying to make it look like other places when the people of Pasco, they just want their Pasco. They want to keep it rural. They want green spaces. They do. And there's nothing wrong with that, having green spaces. Why do we have to rip up every tree and then plant more? Mm-hmm. That makes absolute no sense.
Well, if they want it to be like New York City, that is just a bunch of buildings surrounded by, a park. Mm-hmm. And if you have a view of the park, your property's worth way more. No, I like going to neighborhoods that are surrounded by wetlands, that are surrounded by Florida, because that's what Florida is. I've been here my entire life. South Florida, grew up in the Everglades, just south of Lake Okeechobee, and then, up in Central Florida, and I've seen it go from beautiful country, cattle, steer, and I get that progress has to happen. Population has exploded. We were at 330 million residents in the U.S. at one point. I think we're like 370 now, somewhere around there. And who knows with all the illegal stuff happening, but there's only so much housing that you can force feed into one area. And so I'm glad that, you're talking about the challenges of dealing with the infrastructure, because that's not something that you normally are going to hear. They just want to, build, baby, build, and just keep going, because that's part of how, they make their money or supposedly make their money.
Think about inflation. So a majority of people who chose to be here were on fixed incomes, because let's face it, Pasco financially was a better place to live, let's say, than Pinellas, Hillsborough. And now,
tax-wise, it still is. Our taxes are still at lower rates.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's getting to the point where the people who are on fixed incomes, it's almost impossible for them to stay here. They're having to go to Citrus County, Hernando County. That's sad. I mean, you're talking about veterans, and what about the seniors? They can't survive.
So I just had a couple that came in town this past weekend from Virginia, and I've been talking to them for about a year. They are retirees. They were looking at local communities, 55 plus communities. And the last time they were down here, the homes that they wanted to stay between 300,000 and 400,000. They wanted to be on a golf course. They wanted to have some sort of a golf course view or a lake view, which a year and a half ago was no problem. Even in the high twos, maybe even in the mid threes, you could find something. They came down this time. I could show them two properties.
Oh my.
One was in Hernando. The other one was way out in Wesley Chapel. And they go, no, our family's in Trinity. I said, well, right now those same houses are going close to $500,000. And the fact that you're financing, and we just went through the largest interest rate hike since 1994, along with every other thing that's inflating right now, that pushed your payment up beyond where you want to be. So instead of being able to afford $400,000, guess what? You're now down to about 3.25. According to the lender. And so it's grown very quickly. I do think Florida was ready for it, because if you look historically at like California or some of the other, waterfront states, we were severely undervalued. Our waterfront and Gulf harbors with the gorgeous views that you can get from West Shore Drive, those houses in California would be $7, $8, $9 million. Here they were still selling for $700,000, $800,000. Now they finally turned the envelope turned the page, and they're up there where they should be, because you have to pay a premium. There's one thing that you're not creating any more of. It's waterfront lots. But on the flip side of the coin, We have everything up and down 54, which basically are boxes with windows. They all look the same.
Right.
You look at every single developer, it is a box with windows. Oh, look, that has a tile roof. Let's add $100,000 to the price for a tile roof, which has a higher propensity to fail, by the way. If poor installation, because they're not using skilled labor right now, they're using day laborers because you can't find people to stay consistently work and work on the projects.
Some
you
of
got a
these
little close to the mic there, didn't you?
townhomes, some of these townhomes, they literally look like army barracks. On 54? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And they're just packing them into sardines. It's the same as like, New York City real estate. It's easier to build up than wide because you can fit a lot more units going up and you make more money. And I get it. I'm a capitalist. I own several businesses and I like entrepreneurialism.
Sure.
But at some point, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Because right now, Highway 54 should be nothing short of a 4-lane road at any given point. And there's parts that are not, and then it backs up. At 41 all the way to the 70 to 75 backs up.
Well, and what's coming. What they want,
the overpass,
toll roads. That's what we're all going to get.
Of course they do.
I had enough of that in New Jersey, I'll tell you that. And once you get the toll roads, they never go away, even after they're paid for. They're always there.
It's the same thing as when they advertised. When I was a kid, the Florida lottery just came out, or the lotto, and they said, wow, we're going to give all this money to education.
To the schools, right?
Yeah, guess what? That money just kind of, over time, they just forgot about it because people generally have short memories.
Right.
They remember what's happening today, and it's even worse because you have social media. You have, TikTok and Instagram, and people want that instant gratification of the, what is it, the epinephrine or something like the... Can't remember the name of it, but
I know what you mean.
Right, you get like that little boost in your brain
adrenaline,
of saying somebody liked what I did. Woo! On to the next one. But that's what they're getting is the instant gratification, and it's a plague. I feel bad for kids because kids don't get out and play anymore. They just sit in their rooms for the most part, and there are some kids that still do that, where they do get out, they do play sports, but it's a fraction of what it used to be. And 2 years ago in the middle of the pandemic, my wife and we went to Alaska. What was really cool about Alaska is you'll see a 90-year-old lady with a 44 Magnum on her hip. And and it's for grizzly bears in case there's grizzlies or whatever. Sure. But it's the most polite society you've ever seen, and everybody carries. I mean, you're walking through Walmart and everybody has a gun on their hip, and it was like amazing. But at the same time, the kids, just to get out of school, have to pass basic carpentry so they can build their own shelter.
I love it. We
basic
need that.
Mechanics so they can fix a snow machine. I believe it's a small plane and a car engine, just to be able to graduate. And meanwhile, here, kids are learning just enough to know nothing.
Right.
And most of them are being pushed through. They're just being pushed through to say, hey, our graduation rates are higher so the school can get a higher rating. It's frustrating to watch. I mean, my kids go to River Ridge, and I love that school. And my kids were in a different school prior to that, and it changed them once they went to that school. And I like River Ridge quite a bit. I want to go back to one thing. I believe it's July. Sure. Is it July 25th is the last time you can change?
Yes. You can switch your party.
Okay. And so the election day is August 23rd, and by July 25th, if you wanted to vote, so if you are
anything other than a Republican, yes,
then you can switch your party affiliation to be able to vote for a candidate that you want to get in, regardless of who that is. So if somebody wants a non-politician, they can say, you know what, I want Shannon in there because I think she's going to do the right thing. And if they want to stick with the status quo, they can stick with the status quo, but they shouldn't have to do that. But if they wanted to do that, that's as simple, I believe, as going on the county site. You can switch. Is that correct? Or do you have to go to the Board of Election?
I think you can do it right on your phone. PascoVotes.com.
Yeah, and then you can just go in, you put your information in, your address, all that good stuff, and then you can switch.
Yep.
Okay.
It's that simple. But community involvement, Mike, is a big deal because the community is not involved. They feel so disconnected from what's going on in the county. So that's another huge priority of mine. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're coming to talk to someone who's better than them. They can call me Shannon. I don't want to be called, they're going to call me commissioner, but you can call me Shannon. That's fine. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want anyone to ever think that they're coming to talk to the queen. It shouldn't be that way.
It's interesting because I having, been to several establishments here locally that, some of the local politicians frequent, when they walk in, everyone kind of turns their head as if, like you're talking about, like royalty has shown up. And I think they enjoy that. I think that gives them like that ego boost. And there are very few that are a description of what you just painted, which is, hey, how's it going? Anything that I can help with in the community? And some of them will try to support. There's a couple that I've gone to try to support with veterans, and they always run on, we love our veterans and all that stuff. But when you ask them to physically come help,
Right.
they will say yes, 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 and then cancel at the last minute every time. And it's kind of sickening to me because, if they've been in some of these positions for a very long time and they always run on the same thing, and it's nothing more than, if you remember David Copperfield, the magician, it's like, look over here, don't pay attention to what's happening right here, and, kiss the babies and say the right things. And then at that point, once they're elected, you don't see them. You don't see them. You don't get the representation. And I believe it's pascovotes.gov.
Yes.
Is where you actually go. So go to pascovotes.gov if you want to have the ability. Can't believe I'm saying this in America.
I know.
Being a Marine, it really bothers me, to have to say this. But
Thank you again.
if you go to pascovotes.gov and you want to switch your party affiliation just to be able to vote in your county election
and have an actual say
and have a say in who gets in there, it's so frustrating that has to happen. But if that's the law, then that's the law, and so be it. There's loopholes and everything, and it's sickening that happens. So
this campaign is not about me, Mike, just so you know. It never was about me. It's about everybody. I'm Shannon. I'm Shannon, who lives in Pasco County, who decided to get up and fight. I want everyone to remember that it is not about me. It is about helping where you have no voice right now, Mike. And I said, I'll go. I'll do it.
Where is, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how could they go ahead and do that to find out, what your platform is? I know you have a Facebook page. Where else can they reach out to you?
On the website, it's Shannon4, it's the number 4, PascoCC.com. Shannon, number 4, Pasco, and then the CC is County Commissioner, right?
Yep,
.com.
.com.
So,
okay.
And you can go on there. My email's on there. If you would like to donate, that would be awesome, because guess where my money comes from? The people. That's it. Nobody else.
And that's because you're not a career politician that gets donations from large corporations.
And I don't want that money. I don't. If it was put in my account, I would send it back. I would give them a refund.
And it's not easy. Even at a local level, people don't realize. I think just to be competitive, you got to have like 50 grand.
Yeah.
Just because of the number of billboards, the number of signs that go out. It shouldn't be like that.
It shouldn't. No.
Have they had any open debates yet for the county commission?
Yeah, they have.
Okay. What did you think of that process?
It's okay. It really is okay. I'll go ahead and I'll talk to anybody about the issues. But as far as going for personalities, that's not me. That's wrong. Bringing up dirt on people, especially when there is no dirt, that's wrong. Again, I am a regular person. I know she doesn't like me to say that, but I am. I am just like you, Mike, and everybody else in this county.
But see, I think that's great. And the reason I think that's great, because you and I don't know each other that well. This is our second time I've ever met you. And I want people in power at whatever level, presidential all the way down, that are real people, not controlled by other powers. And I think that in the space that we're in our country right now, we are having a macro and a microeconomic meltdown. And when we have people that are generally affected by it, because usually career politicians are not affected by it. But when we have individuals like yourself that just, put their hand down and say, I've had enough and I want to make a difference, that spreads. And it's spread to some pretty high level positions at this point. We've had congressional people that have gotten in there. We've got, senators that have found ways to get in there and have beaten the incumbents. And that's starting to happen nationwide. So it's a good thing.
I don't think people are thinking about is the economy. What's going to happen when this bubble bursts? You and I both know it's going to burst. There's no way this can sustain itself.
In what facet are you referring to?
In real estate.
Okay. I don't think it's going to burst.
I do.
I think there's too many stopgaps from being in the world of real estate. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a correction coming. There's a difference between 2008 and now. So in 2008,
Mm-hmm.
they had greedy corporations that were doing credit default swaps, which caused multiple corporations to fail, which then caused their shareholders to lose billions of dollars, which then trickled down to AIG, who was the insurance policy for those, and they went out of business. And that caused massive
It's
meltdowns.
going to be different for sure.
I think it'll be a correction, but the difference is that in 2010 you had the Dodd-Frank Act that came in. And so Dodd-Frank was where underwriting as far as mortgages go was much more difficult than what it was before, because you had stated income loans back in the early 2000s where you could have a janitor at a
Sure.
high school that says, yeah, I'm making 150 grand a year. Okay, here's a mortgage. Go ahead.
Right.
Without ever showing their income or proving it. But now they have to go through multiple overlays of underwriting in order to go ahead and substantiate their income. And they're very well vetted.
Mm-hmm.
The one caveat that could lead, in my opinion, to a correction in our market. I don't necessarily care about other states, but in Florida, is the fact that we are having everything hit us all at once. It's not just mortgage rates going up to
Rent.
to historic highs. Rent is up.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the number of food factories that have magically burned down?
Oh, yes.
They all magically
I
burn
know.
down.
Isn't
And
that crazy?
they're not covered on the news. If you just go do a DuckDuckGo or a Google search, I prefer DuckDuckGo just because you don't get tracked. But you do a Google search on the number of food factories, eggs, poultry, milk, whatever. They just magically burn to the ground and nobody cares. And these are major factories. And so that's why the price of everything is going up.
Sure. But that's what I'm saying. We're going to be in a position where we have all, let's say, these apartments and something goes wrong in the economy. Then what? What are we going to do with all those apartments? And people can't afford rents. I'm just saying we need to look ahead at what's going on. And instead of taking all of the land right now, how about we actually, because you're talking about the food, how about we actually start growing some? I know I've been told, no, you can't do that here. Yes, we can. We're Florida. Yes, we can grow food. Why not think ahead and get ahead of the curve and set the standard? Why not? Yes, I know Republicans saying this, yes, I am, because we need to think about the times that are ahead of us. And I don't think that they're going to be as prosperous as they have been. I don't. I would love to believe that, but I'm a realist.
It's amazing. I love the fact that you brought that up. When the pandemic hit, February 2020, I believe it was. About 2 months later is where the toilet paper madness came from. I actually started researching toilet paper. Half of it's made.
I started growing trees in the back. No, just kidding.
In the upper West Coast is where most of it was made. I think it came from like Seattle or Portland or something like that is where like a lot of the toilet paper. So it was just a false narrative that was thrown out there. And people were like, oh my God, we need toilet paper. And they were rationing it at Walmart. Like, here's one pack for you. It was literally like going down to like a third world country. But I had friends reach out to me because they know that I hunt. And they're like, hey, there's like meat shortages. There's not a lot. Do you got any wild boar? You got any deer, stuff like that? I'm like, well, there's no season on boar, but deer, you can't really hunt till, I think it opens in September or October. And it's amazing how that happened. But now they don't care. Now that the food's back, they've just Americans have very short memories.
Oh, yes.
And with what's happening with these magical food factories just burning down and never making the news.
No one knows about them. Very few people.
Right. And it's unbelievably, I don't want to even, it is suspicious. 100% it is, because they all happen to burn down in the same month. And the one thing that a lot of people don't know is that as soon as the election happened, okay, so regardless whether you like or hate the previous president, whatever, his policies were great. He might have been an a-hole, but his policies were good. He always
loved his gas prices. Come on, everybody.
Right. It was $1.87 at the Circle K at the end of Starkey Boulevard. I have a picture of it the day that the election happened, and that same place now is $4.93 the other day.
It makes me sick.
But at the same time, Americans had more money in their bank accounts. It was $3.1 trillion. It was the most ever sitting in bank accounts because they couldn't do anything. For 2 years, they were stuck inside. There was no vacations. You couldn't travel country to country to country to country. And now they're just taking it all back by raising the prices on everything because big government always likes to have their thumb and say, you're going to rely on us to make the decisions for you. The less money you have, the more dependent you are on us. And if people don't see that happening right now, they're just not looking or they don't want to look. And I don't care what party that you're with. It doesn't matter to me. Facts are facts. You can pull this data up. It's very readily available. The amount of money that's sitting inside of U.S. banking accounts right now, and it's literally gone down at a historically fast rate. I appreciate you taking so much time here today. I got a couple more questions I want to ask. Sorry, I go on my rants every now and then, and I get very passionate about it.
Should I start reeling you back in?
Maybe. I get being in the military, and I love this country to a deeper level.
You're very vocal for someone in the military. I'll tell you that. Usually they're kind of neutral.
I'm not shy about it. I mean, when you're in, when I was in the Marine Corps, we would get briefings on, hey, we have foreign dignitaries coming in. You basically shut your mouth, and it's just what it was. But for me, I'm not shy. And I'll call a spade if it is one. And we're in just such, I think we're starting to heal as a country a little bit. I think it got really volatile 2 years ago. And it's amazing that, you could lose friends that you knew for 20 years over a comment on Facebook or a text message or something. And I recently went through this with some close friends. I'm like, I'm not texting you anymore because I know how I come across on text because I'm very direct and I don't mean it that way. I generally try to do the right thing every single time that I can, but I know that I'm very direct and some people don't take it well, as opposed to just, I don't want to beat around the bush with people. I mean, cut off the fat, give me the steak and just, let's just be Americans, damn it.
Well, Mike, that's what I've seen in talking to everybody around the county. Do you know most of the time that I talk to someone, I have no idea what their party affiliation is. Not one clue. Later on, I find out and I'm like, oh my gosh, they were Democrat. And we agreed on something.
A lot of stuff in common.
I'm telling you, it's absolutely amazing. And I love when I was doing the petitions, I would go up to anybody and everybody. And the few people that I would come across, like they'd say, what are you? And I'd say, I'm a Republican, and they'd say, I just can't. And I'm like, okay, just let me talk to you for a second. And I explained what was going on, that, it's nonpartisan. It's not about Republican, Democrat. It's not about that. It's about the people. Do you understand that if you ever called me and you needed my help and I was in that seat, I would never, ever ask you, before we go any further, would you please clarify something? Are you Republican or Democrat?
Right.
And then help decide whether I was going to help you or not. And what was it, about a month ago? I'm saying this because I do believe that if we let each other speak, the healing will begin. I went up to a woman. I was just giving her my flyer. And she was like, did you vote for Trump? And I said, yes, I did. And she was like, I just can't. I said, that's fine. Can I talk to you for 1 second? Mm-hmm. And I explained that whole thing that I just talked to you about. And she was like, I just can't do it. And I explained, even further, this is going to affect you this election, and someone will be chosen whether you decide to vote or not. And we had a couple minutes and we were talking, and she was not having it. And that's fine. And I said, that's okay. I said, thank you. And she, right before I left, she said, hold on a second. And I said, what is it? She said, I just want to say thank you. I said, for what? She said, for listening to me. Oh my gosh. That was huge.
How powerful is that?
Oh my gosh. We are Americans, just like you said. This county is full of Americans. We all should be voting. I'm sorry some people don't like the fact that Democrats want to vote for me. I'm sorry that you're an independent and right now you cannot vote for me. I'm sorry. It's sad. It is sad.
But I have up until July 25th.
Yes, you do.
If I want to vote in the election.
Yes.
But you just touched on something that unfortunately is controlled by a third party. And that third party is the media. They want the country divided. They thrive on the country divided.
I'm not about division. No way.
I know that you're not,
No.
but I'm saying like the example that you just gave, I don't know, and I can't say this for a fact because they haven't been in here. I haven't talked to, really any of them. But I'll bet you that there's not another candidate that's out there that's had an interaction like that that's legitimate, because they're all going to say that, I met with Mrs. Smith, and Smith is such a generic name, and her baby needed a leg amputation, and I donated a leg from another baby.
I kissed a baby too and took a picture.
Right. And exactly. They took the picture and then they'll like, get that thing away from me. But it's crazy because the media will portray it. And I've had interactions similar to what you talked about. A high school friend of mine, called me out of nowhere, and we just had a conversation, and they're like, you posted something on Facebook and this and that and whatever. And I don't generally interact on Facebook that much anymore, except for like my real estate business, because things would be taken the wrong way.
Yeah.
But they called me and we talked, and they're like, you really have a lot of the same views that I do.
Yes.
I go, yeah. I'm not just a one party person. And I told them, I'm a registered independent, and I do that intentionally. I don't want to get the mail. Like every presidential election, every other day is just a smear campaign on one or the other candidate.
It's disgusting.
And it doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat, they're both equally corrupt once they get to Washington. They just are. And the ones that aren't, they magically lose when they are the incumbent and they get replaced by someone else. There was a guy in North Carolina that was in a wheelchair. I can't remember his name right now, but Madison Hawthorne. And he lost. And he was on every news channel talking about it, and he just magically lost out in a landslide too. It's like 70-30. But he was very popular because he went out and talked to the people like you do. And when you sit down and you can just have a calm conversation and just say, hey, these are my beliefs and these are your beliefs. And in the middle ground, that's where the happy place is. And it's not, we don't have to be combative about it, because I can sit here and respect your views. You can sit there and respect mine. But if it is for the betterment of the large majority, then I think everyone's probably on the same page. It's the small issues that really get driven home by the media. And, one thing that always amazes me, and being in the military and having been around a lot of high-powered weapons, I don't believe the general public should have certain weapons that they do have access to, but it's amazing. Like there's like 30 people every weekend killed in Chicago.
Oh, I know.
Every weekend, 30 or 40 people killed in Chicago. They never talk about gun violence, never talk about gun control, but then you have that one shooting that happens, and there's like 8 people killed at a Walmart. We need to get rid of guns, and then we have our president talking about getting rid of handguns. The only reason no one will ever invade this country is because we have more guns, period. And guns don't kill people, people kill people. And right now, mental illness kills people. And they don't want to attack that. They want to attack the inanimate object. But last question that I got for you.
You went off and looked at a squirrel.
What happened?
Squirrel.
Yeah, attention deficit. Looks shiny, So in running for county commission, what have you learned throughout this process? And then what would your message be to anyone that's going to watch or listen to this podcast?
I have learned that, yes, I want to win. But if the election says that I lose, I still won, Mike. I still won. I have met so many awesome people. I've made so many friends. And no matter what happens, I'll still be helping Pasco. So that was something that I was never really a part of. Like I said, I was just living my life. But there's so much out there and so much I can still do. So I encourage people to look me up. I encourage people to email me, call me. I'd love to talk to you. That's what it's about. It's about listening to the people and joining together. If we all join together and we went to the county commissioners as a whole, there are tons and tons of people, not just even 100, because I'll tell you what, 100 won't do it. We filled that room that I told you about. It didn't matter. We're talking about county-wide. If people just showed up and they voiced their opinions, we would make some change, because there's no way that they would be able to ignore us. People just need, like I said, to get out of their own way, with phones and, like you said, social media, and everybody's so busy, right? That is the distraction. We're so busy that we can't even look at what's going on right in our own town, in our own county, until it happens. And then after it happens, people are going to say, what? I don't understand. You were so busy.
Mhm.
You didn't take a minute to get involved or talk to your neighbor or show up to a county commissioner meeting. Trust me, people don't want to go to them, but you all are missing a lot by not going to them. And even if you don't go, you can watch them later online. You can plug in your earbuds and listen as you're doing things. You would be astonished at what you hear.
Oh, sure.
You would make it your priority to be a part of what goes on in a county. So that's what I have learned. If you don't go, you don't know.
Well, if you need an example, I mean, just look across the country at the school board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing that came out of the pandemic was parents started paying attention to what their kids were being taught.
Right.
Yeah, and now they're taking action and they're winning. And a lot of those school board members are getting booted out of those seats. And there's new leadership going in that generally have the children in their best interest and not some agenda or ideology, regardless what side that you're on. But, kids are there to learn. They're not there to be tools for future voting. And unfortunately, that's kind of how they're being led down that path. But Shannon, I really, really am grateful. You're the first, political candidate ever to come in here. I've truly enjoyed our conversation, learning about you, learning about your journey. If anybody wants to, July 25th, they can go to pascovotes.gov.
Mm-hmm.
And if they wanted to, try to change and make a difference and make whatever choice that they want, you can always go ahead and do that and then switch right back to your other party if you want to. I don't like that we have to do that, but if that's what's going to take to make change, then so be it. And I really appreciate you coming in here. I hope you do wonderful in the election.
Thank you, Mike.
And thank you so very much for your time.
I appreciate it.
No problem at all. And the primary dates are on August 23rd is the actual election day. And then the deadline to register once again is July 25th.
Go and register to vote. If you aren't even a voter, go and register.
Yeah, it would be nice to have someone in there that is not doing it as a career, but truly doing it to make a difference.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So, but we will see you next time on the Mic'd Up podcast. Thank you again, Shannon Whitwer, for coming in, and looking forward to some great news for you here in the near future.
Thanks, Mike.
Take care.
You too.